Welcome everybody to Ecophysiotherapy Presents Health, Wellness, and Lifestyle. My name is Madeline Golick and I'm the owner and pelvic health physiotherapist here at Ecophysiotherapy. And my guest today is Melissa Barlock. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Madeline. This is great to be here.
I'm super excited. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody this is a pre-recorded message, but if you feel like you want to comment, have questions, please feel free just to type in. Of course, contact details will be available at the end and in the description. So, Melissa, I wanted to have a conversation with you today about relationships because I think they're sometimes a little bit underrated, the importance of social connection and networking. So I thought maybe I wanted to find out from you what you define, because you're kind of like I see you kind of like the relationship guru. So what do you define as like a relationship?
Oh my goodness, that's a loaded question for sure.
Yeah.
And driving over here, I thought, wow, I'm definitely not a relationship expert per se when we talk about couples or marriage. So I'm not a therapist in that way, but definitely I've had a lot of experience with relationships. I mean, all of us do. There are so many types of relationships, whether it be, mother and child, or your spouse, or, coach and a client, or, there's so many different types of relationships. And truly, I think that life is all about building relationships and sharing ideas. And so we're constantly building relationships, whether it be, you go and get your hair done, you're building a relationship with the hairstylist, or you have any type of interaction, you have a potential to create a relationship. And so relationships are, I think, sharing ideas and building some sort of connection. Now, obviously, there's positive relationships, there's negative relationships, there's all types of relationships, but obviously you want to engage more in the relationships that are adding value to your life, or you're adding value to them. So to me, a relationship is all about a connection between two human beings.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic answer. And I kind of wanted to sort of, on that note, talk about like, why do you feel relationships are important? Like, why should we focus ourselves on building relationships?
Well, when you think about it, we are social beings, right? Nobody likes to be alone. And although social media is really King Kong when it comes to people feeling connected, there's still this sense of loneliness a little bit in that, because we crave that human interaction. And I think that goes back to, think of it as cavemen, the pale, I'm saying it incorrectly, evolution, right? And when you think about it, we, to survive, it was necessary to build relationships and have that kind of tribal community. And in that's survival, right?
Yes.
So you have everybody building connections and relationships in order to survive. And so I think that evolution-wise, obviously, we've carried that through into being social beings. And we can feel it. We can feel that when we've made a connection with somebody, we actually feel good, right?
Yes.
When you meet somebody who has greeted you with a smile, or somebody who has added value, or maybe paid you a compliment, or you feel good about it, or you've had a down day and you go and you meet somebody for coffee or have a great conversation, all of a sudden you feel great. Why is that? Well, neurologically there's an actual scientific reasoning behind that, and that is that when you feel connected to somebody and you have a great conversation, it actually releases the positive hormones in your body, the natural chemical reaction that happens in your body.
Yeah.
And that's actually scientifically proven. So when you have a great conversation with somebody, the happiness hormones are actually being released, which make you feel good. And those two are serotonin and oxytocin. And when you think about a parent and a child, for example, and I'm a parent of two young kids, this happens all the time, especially when you have that connection with your kids and you have a great interaction, you feel good about it, right? And the same thing is with a family member, a friend, a colleague. It's such a great feeling to walk away from somebody where you feel like you've had that connection. Well, something, chemically is happening in your body, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting just, in physiotherapy, in my practice, we're working with what we call the biopsychosocial model. So in this model, we're not just looking at like a biological, like, oh, I hurt my back or I hurt my shoulder. That has a wider context in our psychology, but also our our social environment. And so we want to look at, what are your relationships? Are they nurturing relationships? Are they negative relationships? Because as you're saying, that can affect people's pain, right? And part of what we try to educate about is, trying to get out and trying to socialize in the best way possible, finding somebody positive actually can impact pain.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's true that if you're in a negative relationship, and that could be at home, that could be with your social circles, that could be at work. And I think that's one of the epidemics that's happening nowadays, is that the corporations, a lot of people coming home stressed. And what happens when you're stressed? Well, cortisol is being released, right?
Yes.
And so what happens? Your body tenses, it tightens up, and then you're more prone to injuries. And so I think that relationships have a direct correlation to your health, 100%. And they say that happier people live longer.
Yeah.
And it's proven time and time again that, yes, of course, all these other ailments and what you eat count.
Yes.
But when you are happy, people live longer. So it's quite interesting.
No, it's absolutely interesting, and specifically why I wanted to kind of have this conversation. And I wanted to, find out from you, like, what are some keys? Okay, so for example, like for a period of time, I was very introverted. The whole idea of getting out and meeting people in large groups, or like even just meeting somebody you don't know, can be very kind of filled with anxiety and social awkwardness. And what are some tips you would give people when they're like thinking about like, I really need to kind of put myself out there? What are some success tips you could give?
Okay, well, first of all, you're not alone.
Yeah.
I think that's great that you're sharing that, because looking at you, you would never know that you would feel, intimidated or socially awkward. And that just goes to prove that everybody feels that way. I feel that way in a lot of cases. And I think it's just kind of stepping outside your comfort zone. And realizing that everybody feels the same. It's a fear of rejection, right?
Yeah.
It's the feeling that everybody wants to be accepted, everybody wants to be welcomed, everybody wants to be accepted into the tribe, and it's the fear of being rejected. So having the knowledge that you're not alone is step number one, is knowing that everybody feels the same thing, and you got to put yourself out there for sure.
Yeah.
So really just kind of maybe even taking baby steps, and if you are an introvert and you're looking for ways to get out and meet more people, start with things that interest you. It doesn't have to be something that you don't like to do. If you start with things that you do like to do, then you're going to meet like-minded people, and it's not so intimidating.
That's
so,
a
lot of times, especially for business, like if you're a business owner and you're looking to meet more people, doesn't mean you have to go to a business event. Go to, if you like crocheting, go to a crocheting club.
Exactly.
If you like reading books, go to a book reading club. If you like wine, maybe there's wine, well, I'm sure there's wine connoisseur clubs, hiking clubs, things like that. There's so many things that you can do to get out and meet people. And man, that just raises your confidence, your self-esteem. You're around people that already have the same general interests as you.
So you have a topic of discussion. It's not as awkward trying to figure out, well, what are we going to talk about? Well, start with the easiest thing, which is the thing that you have in common, right?
Or grab a friend, grab somebody that, maybe you're comfortable with, and say, hey, you know what, let's go out. I want kind of a wingman to help me out here. Yeah. And that could be an idea as well.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe this tip might be helpful. It's something that I can't remember where I heard this, but when you're especially when you're sort of maybe in a larger group, pretend that you're, like, let's say it's a house party you're going to and there's a whole bunch of people you don't know. If you sort of kind of resign yourself, like, I'm the host of this party, even though it's not my party, but if you sort of walk up to people and have the mindset in your mind, like, this is my party. So, hi, my name is, Madeline Golick. It's a pleasure to meet you. What brought you to the party? And then you kind of start it off that way. Like, how would you welcome somebody to your own home is kind of how you can approach when you're in a environment where people don't know you.
I love it. That's exactly what I do. In fact, I feel more comfortable doing that when I go out, and I inherently do that. I host a lot of events and parties at my house, and that's what I do when I go out. Is I will take the initiative to go meet somebody. You don't want to be the wallflower standing there. And although a lot of times we feel like that's how we feel, what I would recommend if you're feeling intimidated, listen to something positive before you go to an event or before you go to, a networking event or something that you're a little bit shy about doing. Stand in your power pose. Your power pose of putting your shoulders back and, open your body. It's going to absolutely open your energy. Yeah. And all of a sudden your energy shifts and you're a little more confident. It sounds a little bit strange, but try it. You can.
I've heard it before a meeting or before an interview. Don't look at your phone, because you kind of curl down and in, and you kind of bring yourself, you lower yourself down rather than sort of sit and lift yourself up into. Actually, I think I saw on. My stepdaughter watches Brain Games.
Yeah.
And they were talking about power poses and how it actually affects your physiology.
Yeah.
And builds your confidence.
Absolutely. We'll try it. We could do it right now. We go like this, and all of a sudden, it's almost like you get a shot of adrenaline and you feel a little more confident.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I do anytime I feel a little bit intimidated. I make sure my shoulders are back. I listen to some music that gets me going, and it changes your state.
Yeah.
We all go through those ups and downs, and I think that knowing what your triggers are and really kind of getting yourself in that positive state, the music, that whatever gets you excited, enthusiastic, or confident will help you.
There's lots of actual motivational videos on YouTube. I know that I receive them every sort of Monday from mompreneurs. They send out these motivational videos, and they're like 10-minute clips of like all, people who, Tony Robbins and Oprah. And
my goodness.
All
so
those,
many.
Yeah, there's so many inspirational people out there, and you just hear them sort of talking about like, don't take yourself so seriously and just like take a chance, there's no gain without some risk, and you're going to be fine. Everybody else is feeling similarly to how you're feeling. So you take the initiative. You take that first step and welcome that other person to open up to you.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see what happens. And what I've realized over the years, and I started off in my career in the hospitality industry. So I've met, so many different people from all walks of life, all around the world. And now in what I'm doing right now, I've had the opportunity to truly travel everywhere and meet so many people. And the truth is, no matter how much money you make, no matter what profession you're in, no matter what you're doing in life, people simply want to be loved and accepted.
Yeah.
It really comes down to that. People want to be loved, appreciated, and accepted. And so knowing that, it kind of it keeps you on a level playing field, knowing that those are really the key things that people are looking for. So try not to put you in a position where people are better than you, or that negative self-talk, right? You want to have those positive I am statements, and be kind to yourself and talk positive to yourself. Talk to yourself as if you would be talking to a friend, and treat yourself that way.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important key point. It's really hard to love others and be out there when we're so hard on ourselves too, right? So power poses, getting into a positive, motivated vibe, understanding that others are feeling similarly, and you be the one to welcome them, and that can definitely help with success.
Absolutely.
Where do you think people where does it go wrong
in relationships?
Yeah.
Well, my goodness. I mean, I think that expectations. I think sometimes people expect more. The way that I look at relationships is I'm a giver, and I truly believe in the law of reciprocity. Don't give to give or to give to get, just give to give. Give value to people, give compliments to people, be kind to people without expecting anything in return. I think a lot of times things go wrong when we start having expectations on people of what we think that they should be doing or what we think they should be saying, and not realizing that everybody responds to us because of them, not because of us. They have their own experiences, and I think realizing the differences in people. And so I think sometimes lowering the expectations of what we think or how we think people should respond helps things, and just really, focus on the things that you can control, and that's how we respond to people, and how we want to show up. I live my life with kind of the concept of be somebody who you would want to hang around.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm acting in a way that I wouldn't want to hang around myself, well, then why would anybody else?
Yeah.
So I try to live authentically and positively, and not take myself too seriously.
Yeah.
We're all human, and also to meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
Everybody in life is at their own. On their own journey, and everybody has their own experiences, everybody has their own challenges, and I think meeting people and loving people where they're at is another thing that I live by, and what I teach is that just love people where they're at. People come and go in our lives, and I believe that they're there for a reason, to teach us things and lessons. Yeah. And sometimes the lessons are hard lessons, and sometimes those lessons keep showing up because we haven't learned them yet.
Yep.
I believe that things that kind of bother us will keep showing up until we've learned that lesson. And sometimes people will come in our lives that are there to teach us those lessons, and really kind of embracing differences.
Yeah.
And understanding that there are going to be differences, and anticipate challenges.
Yeah.
When we anticipate that things always aren't going to go our way, then it makes it easier to accept the challenge.
Yeah. And I thought maybe a nice segue, sort of talking about, just giving for giving's sake, accepting people where they are. Let's talk maybe a little bit about gratitude.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you're sort of saying give for giving's sake, be grateful, don't expect X, Y, and Z, but be grateful for the things and the experiences that you sort of have. And you're sort of in an industry where you're kind of expressing gratitude all the time.
Yeah.
So why is it important?
Oh my goodness, for the same reasons as connections. I mean, gratitude is just being grateful. Being grateful, for the sun coming up in the morning, being grateful of where we live, being grateful for the friendships that we have, being grateful for our kids, being grateful that we're healthy. I mean, all the things that we take for granted that you don't realize until they're taken away. And then all of a sudden we're grateful. We'll be grateful for those things. Maybe, what I like to do is I take a few minutes in the morning and at night. And some people call it meditating. I just take a moment in bed before I get out of bed, and I think of all the things, maybe not all the things, but a few things that I'm grateful for. And if you just sit still for a moment and think, okay, what am I grateful for? And start practicing, or you can start saying it in your head and even saying it out loud or writing it down, the things that you're grateful for. You'll notice that the more that you're grateful for things, you'll start looking for things that you're grateful for. Yeah. I've done challenges with myself and my team as well, where we'll do gratitude challenges.
Yeah, I did one last year, a 30-day gratitude challenge.
30-day gratitude challenge. Yeah. And, every day writing down things that you're grateful for. And you can decide whether you want to write down, a certain amount of things or just every day write down one thing. It's up to you of what you want to do. But just starting to look for things that you're grateful for. And it could be as simple as, the green grass. And actually staying still for a moment and appreciating nature. We take all of these things for granted because we're so bombarded with noise, right? With noise everywhere that we don't actually take a moment to be grateful. And I think when you're grateful for things, it's hard to get upset and it's hard to get, anxious about things. If we are grateful for our kids, for example, maybe we'll be a little bit kinder, a little more gentle, or a little more
tolerant,
a little more tolerant,
a little more patient
when they're not doing what we want them to do, but just be grateful that, hey, we have these incredible kids that are in our lives that are teaching us so much. So standing in gratitude, I think, is it's a skill. it's something that I think that, I mean, even myself, I have to practice a little more often, but it certainly raises those positive vibes in you and enables you to give yourself the best version of you to other people. And when you're able to give the best version of you to other people, then it allows them to do the same, and that reciprocity kicks in, and that's where those true connections come in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think Tony Robbins, I was listening to a podcast. He does 3 things that he's grateful for in the morning. One of which has to be something just like the grass, as you were saying. You know, 2 things could be like, you know, a health thing or a business thing, a family thing. And the thing is, when you're focusing your mind on that gratitude, it's really hard to focus. Like, somebody said to me, like, don't focus on the things that are going wrong. Focus on the things that are going right.
Absolutely.
And that is a skill that needs to be honed.
Yes.
Because we have a negativity bias. It's evolutionarily built into our brain that, you know, we need to kind of sort of worry that something's dangerous. So we have to counter. We have to actually take the time and counter that negativity bias with, I think gratitude would be the opposite.
Absolutely.
To that.
You know, so many people say, I don't want this, and I don't want that, and I don't want this. And it's like, you know, and that's where I stop and I say, okay, well, what do you want? Instead of focusing on the don't wants, focus on the do wants, because whatever you're saying to yourself, your mind and your brain is going to look for that.
Yeah.
So if you keep talking about the don't wants, and you're not grateful for anything, well, then your brain is going to stick there, and it's going to keep your reticular activating system is going to keep looking for those things that you don't want, as opposed to shifting to the things that you do want, and then your brain is going to subliminally look for those things that you do want. So the negative self-talk is not good. So you got to shift that mindset, and definitely, you know, expressing gratitude is going to help that for sure.
Excellent. So I have sort of 2 things I want to touch on before we wrap up. One of which is I've sort of been asking all of my guests this, but for yourself, what do you think are the keys to health and happiness? Like, for you, what's important for, like, your health, your family's health? Like, what are some keys that you think?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. Well, I think we kind of touched on them today.
Yeah.
To me, it's relationships and gratitude. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we can be grateful for our relationships and you know, focus on having healthy, strong relationships and being grateful for them, I think that contributes to health and happiness for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, you know, there might be some more, maybe business or very project-orientated individuals listening, and I kind of wanted to find out from you because, you know, you in your employment have reached Eagle status, which is one of 4 people in Canada, is that correct? Or one of 4 people?
I'm the only one in Canada.
Oh, you're the only one in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew
the only international one.
I knew it was 4. I just couldn't figure out, is that like worldwide or is that in Canada?
Globally,
with SendOutCards.
Yes.
And I kind of wanted to find out, like, what are your success tips? Like, how did you get there? What kind of routine or tips would you give?
Okay, well, you know what? Honestly, relationships is number 1. Investing time in relationships. You know, it's true that when all the wealthy multimillionaires and billionaires say your network is your net worth. And if you can take time to invest in relationships, it's not how many people you know, but it really is how well do you know those people. You know, I can have 5 or 10,000 people on social media, but really at the end of the day, how many of those people could I call up and ask a favor, and would they do the same?
Yes.
So it really is about building relationships and be authentic in those relationships and taking time with them. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to build relationships.
Yes.
And also consistency.
Ah.
Consistency of those daily habits. You want to implement good daily habits, and I believe that health is a huge part. Without your health, you know, there's no wealth. There's no wealth without health. So I think that investing in your health is absolutely paramount, which is why I absolutely love what you do and what you're doing, Madeline. It's just incredible. So, you know, having habits around health, having habits, your exercise regime, having habits around what you're eating, what you're putting into your body, and what you're exposing yourself to. And that has to do with personal development. So those little things every single day, investing in the relationships, investing in your health, investing into, personally developing is absolutely paramount. We should be investing more in ourselves than any other area of our life, because from that you're able to expand into other things. So consistent in your daily habits. In whatever industry or whatever you're doing those key things every single day consistently over time will compound into things that you will never ever imagine could ever be possible.
And I think that's absolutely correct, and I would absolutely agree. Well, I agree with the health, with the exercise, and the personal development is something that I've just been sort of figuring out with trying to develop my business. I can't do that if I don't develop myself and change my mindsets and change the negative self-talk. Because if I say to myself, "You can't do this," well, you won't. It's just that simple. It's just not going to happen, right? Yeah. So then working through, why is it that I feel that way about myself, and how can I change the way I think about myself, and then therefore that begins to change the way I think about other people, and allows me to open up to build those relationships.
Right, and you start attracting those people into your life. When you're in a happy, positive mindset, you will inherently attract those people. We attract people into our lives. We mirror ourselves. So if you find yourself in constant negative relationships, well, that's when you want to look in the mirror and say, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing that's attracting this type of person into my life? And I think that it's a true reflection of what we're doing. So hanging around people who are better and doing more than you is what you want to be around, that happy, positive kind of environment. And that will amplify everything.
That's amazing. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Super fun.
And I really hope that our listeners have taken something from this conversation and get out there and go nurture, your relationships, pick up the phone of that friend that you haven't talked to in a while. The next time an opportunity comes, somebody asks you to do something, like
say yes. Go out.
Yeah,
enjoy yourself. Have fun.
Yeah.
It'll keep you alive longer and healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
Oh my goodness, it was so much fun. Thank you for the opportunity, Madeline. You're just amazing. I love your show. You do so many great things, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, guys, we'll see you later, and stay tuned. The contact details, if you want to learn about what Melissa does, will be at the end of the show.
Thank you.